Have you ever found yourself standing in front of the pantry, eating something right out of the bag, even though you aren't hungry, and that little voice in your head just whispers, "Why are you doing this?" Or maybe you've eaten an entire row of Oreos, and then that familiar wave of shame and regret just washes over you. For years, I believed that that feeling meant that I was broken, that I just hadn't have any willpower. But I was wrong, Wellness Warrior. Those moments have nothing to do with our character and everything to do with a biological trap that has been intentionally set for us. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how that trap works, but more importantly, I'm going to show you how to stop it from working on you. I want you to get control of your life back because it's not just about eating, is it? It's about the brain fog that we have, that we don't understand why. Why can't I think straight? It's about the aches and the inflammation that our body has that make us feel older than we are. It's about looking in the mirror and feeling like a stranger is staring back at you. I know these feelings because I had them. And that was my life for so long. I can barely remember a time that I didn't feel that way. I was stuck in the same exhausting cycle of craving, regret, craving, regret over and over, eating the wrong thing, beating myself up, and not understanding why I keep doing that to myself. So, for those of you who are new here, I'm Violet, and I made this channel because I wanted to share what I learned about the food system that we're in that's basically designed to keep us fat and sick. I lived the struggle of trying to be healthy for years, to trying to put down junk food for years. And it took me that long before I understood what was really going on. And I'm here to save you time. I want to save you the pain that I went through by talking about what's really causing you to eat the wrong things and not enjoy your life. So let's talk about why you feel so out of control. The most important thing that I want you to know is that your body is not broken. And it's actually functioning perfectly. When you eat the wrong thing, your body does the so I want to bring back the analogy of the GPS here because I want to use it to help us to see an important point. If you were trying to drive to an outlet mall in the city that's like next to yours, so not in your city, you'd open your GPS and let's say you type in Walmart outlets and you end up driving, following the directions as presented, you end up at Gucci Mall. Wouldn't you be shocked? And wouldn't you have a huge, huge question mark of like, how the heck did I get here? Wellness Warrior, when you look into the GPS and verify the map and see that I put in Walmart Mall, but, and it has this address, but the GPS took me to Gucci Mall with that address. And you verify, I typed it incorrectly, and you do it again, and it's telling you, nope, you're already here. And you figure out, wow, the map is purposefully taking me to Gucci Mall. Somehow it's been programmed to send me to the more expensive mall. Would you continue Or would you ever even blame yourself? No, of course not. You'd probably be pretty pissed. You'd probably be like frustrated. Why did I buy this GPS if it's going to sometimes take me where it feels like taking me rather than taking me where I want to go? You would see that you were set up kind of with the hopes probably that if you drove all that way, you'd shop anyway. Wellness warrior, I need you to understand that for decades, we've been handed the wrong directions for our body's GPS, and it's been on purpose. The food we eat are the instructions for every step that our body is going to take. And we're trying to get to optimal health oasis. To get there, our GPS needs to be programmed with healthy animal protein and animal fat. I will call that the map to get to us to optimal health oasis. Dr. Fung helped me to understand that the macronutrients we eat actually tell our body how much blood to pump, how many hormones to produce, what chemical reactions to process. Everything stems from what we eat. So the food comes in, and then the macronutrients tell our body what to do. So if we have the right map, animal protein and animal fat, right? But what we don't realize, what we don't realize is unknowingly, all those years ago, the food industry, has colluded with a bunch of shady GPS manufacturers to make sure as many people as possible have the carbohydrate and sugar map. Carbohydrate, sugar, two words for the same stuff. That map takes you to chronic disease city. Wellness warrior, you never had a chance to get to optimal health oasis because they keep you lost on the road from day to day. You begin from the day that you started eating solid food, we've been using the carbohydrate map. Think back to your pediatrician. What did they tell you to feed your child? Mine told me to give her baby oatmeal. That's all carbohydrates. And baby banana. That was the second thing I was supposed to give her. That is all carbohydrates. What do we mix it with? Well, some of them say mix it with water. My pediatrician told me to mix it with milk, and she told me I could keep using breast milk, but by this age she can transition to cow's milk. Cow's milk is not the same as human breast milk. Let's be very clear about that, first of all. But second of all, either milk is getting overpowered by the majority of what this is, which is a bunch of carbohydrate. From day one, you were programmed to drive to chronic disease city. Every processed food that you eat from that point moving forward, baby cereal is a processed food, wellness warrior. So are Cheerios and all the other stupidity that we feed our kids, but whatever. Once you start eating these processed foods, you are eating a beautifully scenic replica of the actual amazing views you would have gotten at optimal health oasis. So what I'm saying is, you eat these things, they stimulate your brain, they cause your brain, so the reward center of your brain to light up, and you see this replica of the optimal health oasis that you're trying to get through, and it feels amazing. But here's the catch, wellness warrior. When you try to get out of the car to enjoy this replica, you can't. You step out of the car, poof, it disappears. What's going on? If you're not eating the garbage, it doesn't stay. And we've all lived this. You feel down, you feel sad about something, you grab a processed something, you eat it, the wave of hormones and the dopamine hit and you feel better, serotonin and all the things are happening in your body. You feel great for a few minutes. And to keep that going, you would have to go back and eat some more. Are you going to go back and eat some more? Yep. Right. So maybe you grab another something. Maybe you grab one of these and you just keep going down that rabbit hole and you eat them and you eat them and you eat them. And eventually your weight's rising. Right. And you notice it and you're like, well, this can't be good. So maybe you're going to try. But in order for you to keep it going, I'm going to show you actually, because maybe your weight's rising and you try one of these. These are, the keto versions that help you to lose weight, right? They're lower in carb, they say. Now, you check the packaging, the stuff still vanishes as soon as you step out of the car. And the keto versions don't even taste as good. The bliss point that stimulates the brain and gets us to overeat this stuff, the hyper palatability of the food so it tastes delicious and gets you to you want to eat this stuff, overpowers our desire for our body to be healthy. But we're being tricked. That's the part about it that is even more you don't even know you're doing this to yourself. The garbage that you are eating only lasts as long as you are chewing. So you can never get out of the car and enjoy what you're seeing. But you're driving to chronic disease city unwittingly with all this fake happiness in your face. It's a perfectly engineered, scientifically proven strategy to keep you using their faulty map. Now, if somehow you meet somebody like me and I help you to kind of pay attention, look at the map a little more closely. And you look and you realize, you know what? It's doing that not just for this mall. It does it for a lot of places I'm trying to go. It's taking me to wrong places. And you figure out that I got to change this map. And Violet mentioned that there's this other map. So you upload this other version of a healthy animal protein and animal fat map. And as you've uploaded it to your GPS system, oh my goodness, all of a sudden, keto flu. Oh my goodness, you're experiencing keto flu and you're starting to freak out a little bit. Please, I need you to stick with me for a second. That's your body shutting down the old map, wiping the hard drive clean, and starting up the new map. If you've ever had to reinstall a computer, like I've done too many times, you'd see that that's a hard process. You wipe the computer clean, you reinstall everything you have, and then you realize, oh geez, all the updates and the that you have to do, and it could take you hours to get that computer up and running again. Do not be surprised that this absolutely complicated, one of a kind system that you have, that you're trying to run with the food that you're eating, when you change the map, experiences nausea and chills and exhaustion, and you're hungry like crazy, even though you were eating all the protein and animal fat and low glycemic vegetables that you could, because rebooting this system is a really difficult process. And so your body isn't messing up. It's doing all of this stuff on purpose because it needs to shove away the old map and really get this new system installed properly. And hopefully, when you live through that withdrawal, because that's what's happening, by the way, keto flu, food companies want us to think that's what it is. It's not a keto flu. It's withdrawal from the sugar. Think about it. The only thing you did was bring your sugar down from the sugar that you took out of your diet. And you didn't take it all out, by the way. You're still eating carbohydrates if you're doing a keto diet, for example. When you do this reboot, Wellness Warrior, you want to make sure that you never have to do it again. So we're going to keep our new map as up to date and functional as we can. And what you're going to start to notice is that the new map, once it's loaded up and functioning correctly, it gets you to the destination, like destination number one. You program something in and I'm there. And you get your first glimpse of optimal health oasis. And you realize that, hey, my weight stabilized. And perhaps even I start to lose. First time ever in years and years and years. And you're like, this is amazing. I love this. But then you realize that for the past 30, 40, maybe 50 years, the whole world had been blaming you for being fat, telling you to try harder. Why aren't you moving? Why aren't you in the gym every other day like everybody else? You had more than one cookie. You're supposed to have one cookie, just like everybody else. They're blaming you for following the GPS that's been in your body since you began eating solid food. Food that food companies told our, well, I mean, they're part of this process, right? They tell the doctors to tell us that, these things are simpler and healthier. Food companies need us to blame ourselves, wellness warriors. Is the point I'm trying to make right now. They need us to be confused because our body is doing the right thing. Our body sees those carbohydrates coming in, the sugar coming in, carbohydrate sugar, right? And our body is on high alert because sugar above 20-ish grams is toxic to the body if you have metabolic disease. It's toxic. It's not just kind of bad. It's not just raising your weight. It's toxic. Your body wants you to be healthy. Now, before I go forward in this, I want to make sure how do you know if you have metabolic disease? There's a few signs you can look out for. If you're overweight, if you have inflammation, and water retention, counts as inflammation, a sign of inflammation, and a sign of a lot of other more serious things. But we're talking about metabolic issues right now. So if you have water retention, yes. If you're fatigued, if you're constantly tired, even if you get a good night's sleep, or good night's sleep. I mean, sometimes we have trouble sleeping too if you have metabolic issues. But if you get a lot of sleep and you still wake up tired, if you have muscle weakness, if you have stomach pains, digestive issues, high blood pressure, diabetes, skin issues like rashes, there's so many things. Dr. Ede also helped me to point out, and she gave me the data that I can now say, anxiety, depression, and many other mental health disorders and issues are linked to metabolic disease. So if you have these issues and you eat high carbohydrate, your body's freaking out because when those carbohydrates come in, what's happening is that it can't just let that sugar stay in your blood system. You could have an even bigger problem than what I just listed could happen, resulting in you being in the hospital. So your body puts the sugar that came in in fat storage where it's safe. Wellness where most people in the westernized world, so whether you're living in North America or any other place that has a lot of processed food, have some level of metabolic disease. So when your body tastes sugar coming in, it gets to work, increasing insulin, putting that sugar in fat storage, and a bunch of other processes are just set in motion to keep you safe. My body wants me safe. So toxins, those sugars, they need to get out of my blood. Now, that toxin, after 40 plus years of overconsumption, so that was my story. More than 40 years before I figured any of this out. It was stimulating the reward center of my brain. So it's stimulating the reward center of your brain for however long it took you before you learned this information freely, easily. It had full access to this part of your brain, and it was creating the addiction that we all live. We all walk around with some level of addiction. And trying to use willpower to overcome addiction would be like grabbing that steering wheel of your car as tight as you possibly can, pushing your foot on the gas as hard as you possibly can, but still following the GPS directions. You're not going to get to the right destination. You're just going to get to chronic disease city faster and more exhausted than before. And we all know what happens when we're exhausted, right? When you're tired, when you eat more junk. The solution is not to drive harder. The new solution is to set up your new map. So step one, right? What map are you using? I really need you to pause right now, Wellness Warrior, and look at the map you're using. I need you to verify. A lot of times people will tell me that they're doing keto or carnivore. But then when I look at what they're doing on a carnivore diet, they might be still allowing like cheese and dairy into their life to such an extent that the amount of carbohydrates coming in, because lactose is a carbohydrate, the amount of carbohydrates coming in is so high that they're still going past 20 grams of carbs. Sometimes they'll allow things like honey to come in. That will allow you to go, because honey is an animal product, right? So I want us to understand that you need to pay attention to that carb count. I'll talk to people doing keto and keto diets, sorry. And again, the same thing will happen. Well, I'm only eating these vegetables, and on the surface, the vegetables are fine. But if you're eating them in large amounts, or if you are not counting when you eat rice or the occasional potato, or then if you don't count everything that you put on your plate, and then you end up going over, or if you put enough of the safe things that you go over, you're still going to end up in a problem. And the third way that I want to point out that you can end up in a problem was the way that I ended up in a problem, because I was meticulous. My reason for starting healthy keto was to make sure that I healed my inflammation problem. And you know what? It turned out that my body didn't need me to be under 20. It needed me to be under 18. There's so many ways that you can find out that your body is struggling and the metabolic issue that you're living needs to be taken a bit more. So you need to look at what's going on, Wellness Warrior, and once you've taken that really good look, you have to ask yourself, what destination am I driving towards? Right? Is my GPS loaded up with carbohydrate, sugar, or is my GPS loaded up with the healthy animal protein, animal fat, mostly? Like that's the direction that is on. That's it. There's no judgment, there's no guilt. Meat, fish, poultry, eggs are what your body is asking you for. All fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and grains are carbohydrates, wellness warrior. And you need to keep them in the range that allows your body to do its best, right? If you eat more than what your body can manage, you will struggle. The simple act of awareness is the first step to choosing a new destination. So I want us to do this as a community. Go in the comments and tell me, what is the one wrong direction food that was just messing with you, right? That the food industry sold you as healthy, that when we look at it now, we can see the carb count in there, of course, is contributing to the struggle that I'm having. I want us to expose the faulty maps. And while you're down there, I want to give a massive thank you to everybody that supports this channel. I really do appreciate you, Wellness Warriors. And you coming to my live streams, commenting. I'm going to get to your comments in a minute. It really does make me happy to see that you're looking for real answers. Okay. The other thing I want to point out is that it's incredible how when you have the right instructions for your body, right? When the GPS is taking you to optimal health city or optimal health oasis, and it does it every time without fail. You eat, your body is able to use everything that you're eating, and you're not just storing everything into fat storage. The struggle with your health disappears. And I'm not just talking about weight. Everybody wants to weigh the right amount. And I feel like what's frustrating to me is that often we want to weigh the right amount because people can see that. But in the background, if we can weigh our a good looking number, like, so if we can be thin but still eat a bunch of garbage, many people do that. And what you don't realize when you do that is that the damage happening inside accelerates. So I want to make sure that I'm really clear about why my body is so quick to put sugar in fat storage is a good thing. I want to make sure I'm clarifying that, because Wellness Warrior, I know that I've known young people who were not able to put a lot of fat on their body, or this is the conclusion I came to. They were thin, they were thin, they were thin. The entire time they were thin. And yet ended up being sick and in the hospital. And only when they're in the hospital do they now know, oh, something was wrong. But their body wasn't showing them anything. And honestly, people who have trouble gaining weight often are the ones that have illness attack them earlier in life, from my observation. You know, it's very, very rare that I see someone who's just slightly overweight who ends up in the hospital at a young age. Flip side of the coin is also true. If your weight gain is very quick and you get to the range of obese, you too might end up in the hospital at a younger age. Different side of the coin. But for those people, for those of us who are trying our best to eat moderation, so we're trying to fight the addiction part of our brain and be moderate, when that fight is happening and we are losing and our weight is rising, I'm trying to get you all to see that that's better than the fight. We're losing the fight, but our weight is not rising. And a lot of reason for that is because if our weight is not rising, sometimes we're not even trying to eat healthy. All carbohydrates that enter your body are doing something, Wellness Warrior. And as Dr. Fung pointed out, these are the instructions for what your body is trying to accomplish. It's still in there trying to save you from the sugar coming in. The question is, what is it doing with it if it's not putting it in fat storage? And the consensus from Dr. Ekberg and Dr. Nobe, I hope I'm saying his name right. The consensus is it's causing damage to the body. So your car, body, right? Sputtering through keto flu to get you to the place where now we're back in ketosis, what our body was meant to be doing, as Dr. Bickman pointed out. Babies are born into ketosis, and they only switch over when we start feeding them the wrong things. So when our body is back to doing what it was meant to be doing, we not only thrive, we get our life back. And that's amazing for us. We should want to have our life back, Wellness Warrior. And I think the best way for you to get your life back is to see that having fun with food is not as fun down the road when my body isn't functioning properly. It's not as fun down the road when I'm in the hospital and I'm fighting with myself about the food I'm eating. The great thing about a ketogenic lifestyle, I stopped fighting with myself about food. I was able to eat my meals, and I loved my meals. I love my meals on keto. I love my meals on carnivore. People are so worried that they're not going to love what they're eating. I love what I loved what I ate on keto. I love what I eat on carnivore. Why? Because first of all, on keto, I spiced my foods in the way that tasted good to me. That made it really easy. On carnivore, currently, I'm eating meat, fish, poultry, eggs with only salt. And you know what? One of the things I've figured out, and I'll share this with you today, wasn't part of my plan, but I'm going to share this with you. So, I don't know if you've ever had the experience where you go to the mall and you go to the store that sells like bath products. We have a store here called Bath and Body Works. Walking by the store, you smell it from like 3 stores away. And when you pass it 3 stores forward, you smell the store. It's like so intense in smells because everybody's in there spraying stuff and smelling stuff. Now, when I walked into that store to buy something, or like back in the day, that smell would overwhelm me. Oh, I could be in there only for the short amount of time to grab whatever I was trying to get and get out. But people that work in there aren't bothered by the smell, because if you're in something for long enough, it stops bothering you. It just smells like a smell. But here's something else that I noticed, because my daughter works at that store. When she's home, and like if I'm wearing perfume or there's a smell happening that I can totally smell in the house, yeah, people that work in these places, they're so used to being around so much smell that when they're in subtle smells, they can barely smell it. And we'll notice that for ourselves as well. When you put perfume on yourself, you smell it right away. But as you're in it over the course of the day, you might even forget and not realize, am I wearing perfume? But then someone will come up to you and be like, oh, you smell so nice. They can smell your perfume. You get used to it because you're in it. So why am I telling you this? Well, the same thing happens to your taste buds. When you eat carb-heavy foods all the time, the sugar in these foods means that low sugar foods taste kind of bland. When you're having spicy stuff, the low spiced food tastes kind of bland. That's why hyperpalatable foods are the biggest weapon that food companies have against us. They are keeping our mouths trained on sweet, trained on spicy, trained on extreme flavors, so that when we eat anything that's normal tasting, right? A low glycemic vegetable tastes to us. Ugh, why would I eat that? A piece of meat that doesn't have a bunch of spices on it tastes to us. Why would I eat that? But when you take the sugar out and when you take the processed foods out and you are controlling how much spice you put on your stuff, guess what happens, Wellness Warrior? Over time, as your body asks you for more and you give it what it's asking for, all of a sudden, you're realizing that, wow, broccoli tastes amazing. Like just like that. Broccoli, like and you're not looking to cover it up with a bunch of spices, which happened to me. And eventually I realized that, wow, chicken with just salt tastes amazing. Just chicken and salt. Who would have thought that that would be a thing? It's a thing. Let your mouth recalibrate and get back to basics. It is possible to get back to basics. So when you have the right map, you're eating the right foods, your body is amazingly happy with what you're eating, the journey becomes smooth. The journey becomes calm. The journey is peaceful. You're able to, with confidence, eat the right things and be happy about it. Eating the right fuel means you have more energy to live your life, to do your activities. I'm so happy that when I go longboarding, I'm not exhausted. When I go climbing, I can climb for hours. I'm so happy that I get to do fun activities with our kids, with my nieces and nephews. And I look forward to doing activities with my grandkids someday, where when my hip was falling apart, I wasn't sure I'd even be able to get on the ground with them. I can do that today with my little niece that I love playing with on the ground, rolling around. When you're eating the right stuff, your internal organs are also running cleanly. The cleaner they run, the less damage is happening, the longer we get to be here, Wellness Warrior. You know, we want to be here long. I need to be here long if I want to see those grandkids, right? And the most important thing is the check light engine that had you running to the doctor every 2 to 3 times a year. It finally gets to turn off. So let's kick the food industry out of our food world, right? We need to stop them from stealing your money and your health, Wellness Warrior. And we do that by putting down processed garbage and getting back to those wholesome family recipes from way, way back when, right? There are recipes that we had that were just meat focused, right? A little bit of vegetables, a little bit of salad, maybe, the way our grandparents and great grandparents used to eat. Those meat heavy meals were designed for good health. And it might not have been a conscious thought. It was just, this is what we've always done. And there's wisdom in listening to our body. This is what helped our body to feel good. Meat heavy, meat focused meals. That's what helped our body to feel good. Now, I want to point out for those of you who are going to be joining me later on this evening, that it's this evening at 7 p.m. I'm going to be having a live conversation on my platform. So in my community, on my platform at wellnesssquad.org. If you guys want to join me over there, I'm looking forward to having real conversations, not so off YouTube, real conversations, just you and I. So wellnesssquad.org at 7 p.m. Eastern time. I'm looking forward to the conversation tonight. And now let's look at the comments. And let's see. First of all, I want to say hello to Rick Perez. So you're saying it may be impossible for many, but the best way to win is not to play their game. We need to do our best, but for sure we need to keep our kids on this train. I think you're talking about the keto carnivore train. And I do agree with you. I think that eating healthy is the most important thing we're ever going to do. Um, if you have questions for me, please put them in the comments. I would love to answer some questions before I end today. So I'm going to read through these comments and everything else that you want to say, I'm looking forward to it. And then we have Miss Violet is reading my mail. I'm not reading your mail, but I understand if you resonate with what I'm saying because almost everybody resonates with what I'm saying. It is not it's not fake what we're living. And I want us to understand that our health matters the most beyond everything else, beyond anything else. And so the fact that you resonate with what I'm saying, I think is the biggest point because it shows me that you're actually looking at what you're trying to do. So you're looking at your health, you're looking at your weight, and you're trying to get things to line up. What I'm trying to make sure that you guys all understand is that your body gets healthy before the weight loss starts. I wasn't trying to lose weight. I was trying to heal my hip. I wanted to solve this. I was in pain. I couldn't walk around. And I was able to walk around. So I was back to riding and longboarding and doing my activities with my daughter while I was still overweight. As a matter of fact, I would probably say that I was probably still obese when it happened because, like, mathematically, I still had 60 pounds extra on my body. But I was back to doing my activities. The pain subsided. Did it go away 100% at that point in time? No, but it was away enough that I could run around, do activities and not have to do 2 days of recovery, which is what I had to do before I got to the point where I couldn't walk. So what does that tell me? It tells me that our body wants good health so much that as soon as we start eating the right things, it goes to work on us. It starts to heal whatever it can heal and fix whatever it can fix because that's the most important thing it has to do. That's all it does, right? Our brain protects us from our world, right? So that we can get away from danger and seek shelter and find food. And our body, all these processes that our body does, takes care of keeping us as healthy as possible so we can do the work our brain wants us to do over and over and over again. We don't live on the savannah or in the woods or in the trees anymore or in caves anymore, Wellness Warrior. And I think that we've forgotten that the mechanisms inside, though, are still there to protect us. So when you're trying to get healthy, well, let's focus all our attention on eating the right things and understanding that when we eat those right things, that's when our body can actually do its best to heal us. Okay, so I'm not really sure. You say high carb addiction and you laugh, and then you have here keto flu is not real flu. It's a high carb withdrawal syndrome. Okay, so I'm going to take your first one to be that you were making a joke. Okay, so yeah, withdrawal from carbohydrates is absolutely real. And what it helps us to understand is that when you're young and thin, it doesn't mean that your body wasn't struggling. If there's anything you take away from today's video, I hope it's that. Because I see the mistake in the flip side too. I see a lot of people, they start keto or carnivore. They might even start keto, transition to carnivore because they're trying to push weight loss. Please don't do that. I'm not sure if I finished making this point before when I was saying what I was saying for the other comment. When you try to force weight loss, you're ignoring the fact that your body doesn't care how much you weigh. Your body knows how much you're supposed to weigh, but it doesn't care how much you weigh. And that sounds confusing, but I'm not trying to be confusing. What your body actually cares about is you being alive. If I live till tomorrow, then my body has an opportunity to continue to work on the internals to make sure that the internals are as healthy as possible. And if your body accomplishes that, then you get another day and you get another day and you keep getting more days. Now, if I eat healthy, my body can get me to the healthiest possible state for the the condition my body is currently in. For me, what that meant is I got back to my healthy goal weight, which I didn't know what the goal weight was going to be, by the way, just pointing that out when I started this process, because I wasn't pointing at a weight, I was pointing at a heel, my hip situation. But I got down to a weight, and I've been at that weight for the last 7 years. That being said, after losing 80 pounds, what can I tell you is that I've seen a lot of people do the exact same thing, get to goal and say, yay, I did it. I don't have to eat this way anymore. As soon as you start allowing processed garbage, high sugar vegetation back into your body, either of those two things. So, although we often talk about processed food because of the seed oils and high sugar combination, fruits and high sugar vegetables and honey and high sugar dairy products also cause problems. And so when you let those things come back in, not only does your weight come back, but you are allowing damage to resume on the organs. Your body wasn't overweight strictly because of weight. Your body was overweight because your body was trying to save you from those toxins that come in. The sugar is a toxin. A lot of vegetation has sugar as a toxin and other toxins in there. But today we're just focusing on sugar. We're not even focusing on seed oils today. We're focusing on sugar because I'm trying to help you to see that you need to take it all seriously, which is why I bring up the other toxins. But the diet that got you to good health is the diet that keeps you at good health. The diet that helped you to lose weight, diet that's going to help you stay at that good weight. And now you always have to look at, well, if the diet that I did to get to this good weight is not sustainable, so if that's the feeling you have about the diet that you did, then guess what now happens? You're not going to be able to stay at your good weight. So please reconsider that. Yeah, we need to eat the right things, wellness warrior. And we need to understand that withdrawal is telling us that we weren't choosing these products. We were eating them because we were compelled to. And for those of us who were really good at avoiding these products, I used to think these were healthy, by the way. But for those of us who are really good at avoiding those products, but we still load up on rice, load up on potatoes, load up on high carbohydrate vegetation, you're still not doing yourself any favors. That's kind of the point that I'm trying to help you to see. Hey Pat, thank you for popping in. Um, and I'm sorry to everyone that the live stream started a little late. I had a little bit of technical difficulties. I just want to apologize for that. Linda Peggio says, and I hope I said that right. Um, I saw the preview of today's show in my feed and I was able to click the notify button. It worked. I'm also clicking the hype button. I hope this helps the chat. Linda, thank you very much. I don't have access to the hype button yet, but you must be living somewhere that has it. I do appreciate that because I really do want to help more people. And if hyping the videos will allow more people to find this content and, you know, understand the mental health aspect, because it's not just about what you eat, it's about understanding why eating this way will help you to have more clarity. And then when you have more clarity, it helps you to stay on plan. It's a really nice, but you need to understand what you do. So thank you very much, Linda. I appreciate that. And I do encourage everyone to, yeah, click that notify. It does put it up in your feed again, which helps people to see it. You said, for years, I've struggled with with waking up in the night. and not being, my problem was walking. That's probably why I read it that way. And not being able to go back to sleep until I ate something. Okay. I'm groggy and I don't make good decisions. So you're waking up in the middle of the night. So one of the things that I wonder about, I never had the issue of waking in the middle of the night because I'm hungry. But what I do know happens to a lot of people, for example, who drink, is that if you've drank enough, you're kind of passed out from what you've had. And then on the way, as your body detoxes, you get to the hyper stage of drinking again and it wakes you up. And then, of course, sometimes you can't go back to sleep and they would just end up drinking, right? And that's something that I learned because of the work I do. So I'm wondering if carbohydrates might have a similar thing happen where if you eat a lot of sugary stuff before you go to bed, your brain is going to get a flood of dopamine and whatever, and you're going to get those feel good, right, hormones, and you're going to be all relaxed and whatever, and you're going to fall asleep. But then as your body works to get the carbs out of you, you might wake up and then you're in the kitchen, as you said, groggy and not making good decisions, eat more garbage, and you don't have a great day the next day. I'm wondering if that could be part of what happened to you. I do feel like maybe that might be one of the first times that I have a good reason for people to think about not eating after a certain time at night. So I've heard that um, being said, oh, don't eat after 7 because that's going to help you to lose weight. That's not the reason. And I always eat after 7. My supper time is somewhere between 7:30 and 8 every night. Um, and even if I go to bed at a reasonable time, like 10:30, I still lose. So it's not a problem. But I will say this would be one of the few times that maybe not eating after a certain hour would have helped somebody. Because if you stopped eating at 7 or 6, let's say, no matter what, then you would have gone through that wave of hungry, like so the I would have eaten my whatever thing, my brain would have gone through the dopamine and da da da, and then it would have come back down. And then when I went to bed, I would have been going to bed because I was actually tired. My new question is, would you have been able to not have the snack when your brain sent you the message of like, oh, we could use something else now? So when the fake hungry hit you, would you have been able to not have the snack? That's the question. So my question to you, Linda, if you're still here, were you eating sugary things before you went to bed? Could that is my explanation making any kind of sense? But I've never agreed with the, stop eating before, like if you eat after 7, that's why you're gaining weight. I always felt it was what you're eating, not when you ate it. So to me, that just never made any sense, because then all the people that do night shift and all kinds of, like, it just, like, some people's schedules just do not allow for them to eat in the hours that everybody else eats. How would you explain that they're eating normal things in different hours, and some people can eat normal things in different hours and be healthy? So it, like, that argument never made a lot of sense to me. But um for years I've struggled with weight up. It seems like it was a double. Okay. I've lowered my carb to 10, 15 grams and stopped keto products. The last 2 nights I slept the night. So grateful. Okay. So your carbs were a little too high. Okay. So again, one of the things that I talk about a lot is that on a keto diet, when I learned that 20 wasn't my number, and it's amazing to me that I lost all the weight. So I was at goal weight. I was in my maintenance phase when all of a sudden inflammation came back. And like, I had eaten the same foods, so normal foods, like it was the same foods that helped me to get here. I was still eating the same things. I had removed all the potatoes and all the usual suspects, because I also learned during my keto journey that I have a problem with nightshades. It's one of the reasons that I don't believe in giving people food lists, because everybody has different sensitivities. And if I would have followed somebody else's food list and they were telling me to use tomatoes, which is another nightshade, or eggplant, which is another nightshade, if they were telling me to use those things in my foods, I probably would have remained inflamed and I would have thought that keto doesn't work. And it totally helped my life that I didn't use a food list. So, but yeah, when I was eating properly and then eventually realized that it was actually the fact that I got up to 18, like I had 18.5 on that one of the days, and then I had, another time that I was at 19, and I started to realize that if I stayed under 18, my inflammation was totally fine. And if I went over, and there were a few meals that and again, another good thing about the way that I did my keto diet is that I had meals that I would make, and each meal had um, like a plating way that I plated it. And so sometimes the carb count was lower than others just because that's the way the meal was. And I started to realize that the meals that had slightly higher carb content, I was having inflammation. Not I would love to say it was even the next day. Oftentimes it would hit me in the middle of the night. I would wake up in pain. So just kind of like you, Linda, I would like have this problem in the middle of the night. And what I realized is that for those meals that had a slightly higher carb count, I would have to eat less of that or change the meal somehow so that the carb count was even lower. And I made my adjustments and life went back to normal and I felt fine. So, yeah, I'm very happy that you're playing with this. And I want you to keep in mind that the doctors say 20 grams or less because it is or less. Like some people can do, and there's a doctor, Dr. Gillespie. She talked about the fact that she was able to get her body into ketosis. I think she said 75 grams of carbs. And what that made me realize right away, and she had said that in one of the early videos that I saw when I was learning about keto. But when she said that, the thing that it made me understand is, and this was obvious to me, I don't hear many doctors talking about it, but it was obvious to me. The number of carbohydrates that you need to get down to get your body into ketosis is about the amount of damage your body has. So by the time that I started keto, not only was I overweight, a sign of inflammation, metabolic issue, right? Not only had I already lived 23 years of inflammation in all of my joints, a sign of metabolic issue, but now my hip was screaming in pain, a sign that my body was starting to fail, at least at the joint level. Were there other things that I had? Yes, I had rashes, a sign of metabolic issue. I'm trying to think, like I was not sleeping well, right? I struggled with insomnia, wellness warriors. Like the crazy insomnia that I would have, sometimes 2, 3 days not able to sleep. So I had lots of indications that my body was struggling. Somehow, somehow my somehow I wasn't able to find this information until I found it. And I do often say that I wish I would have looked for it earlier, but at the end of the day, I found it nonetheless. And it's really about being happy that I did find an answer because theoretically, I could still be going forward with without knowing how to solve my hip issue. Maybe I would have had the surgery by now, 7 years later. I might have had the replacement hip. And then what would my life have looked like? And I don't want to go too much into other details, but when you when you start cutting things in the body, oftentimes it leads to other things happening. So that's all I'll say for now. But health is wealth. Illness is poverty. Thank you. I mean, honestly, that's that's an incredible point that you're making there. Because yeah, one thing that I will say, in the work that I do, sometimes I have people who have done things to lose weight that are not recommended. And then they're at goal weight, but now their body it's not doing well. They're struggling. Or they've done things to lose weight and then their mind kind of, and they're struggling. They're not doing well. And in both of those scenarios, the answer is always the same from the person. Once they start to get their health back, they always say the same thing. It wasn't worth it. Like they thought that being thin would have made them happy, and they did a thing to force to get there, and it caused health issues and it caused psychological issues, and they always say wasn't worth it. Wasn't worth it. We are told that being at a healthy weight is the most important thing, and I'm arguing against that. Being healthy is the most important thing. And when we're healthy, our body steps in and regulates our weight. We don't have to fight our body for that, Wellness Warrior. It does it. It does it willingly. It does it happily. And I encourage all of you to keep that piece of information. A healthy body regulates its weight. If that was snappier, I'd put it on a t-shirt. It's not snappy, but if it was snappier, I'd put on a t-shirt because it's the truth. It is the truth. And the only way for us to get that healthy body is to give it the tools it needs to be healthy. That means eating the right thing. Meat, fish, poultry, eggs. That means getting enough sleep, drinking enough water. And it does mean exercising. Don't get me wrong. I'm not against exercise. What I'm against is trying to exercise your body through the garbage that you eat or you ate, right? You're going to eat garbage and force your body to lose weight with exercise. It doesn't work. We have enough evidence that shows it doesn't work. I haven't mastered black coffee, so creamer is a problem. Plain heavy cream isn't working. So what I'm going to say, MZK, what I'm going to say is that very likely the problem isn't the creamer itself, it's the sugar in the creamer still is keeping your palate trained on carbohydrates, right? It's your palate is trained on sweet. And what I'm really encouraging you to do, so you said heavy cream doesn't do the trick, right? What I would try to do is very slowly make the transition. So right now I would look at how much creamer I use. And so there's two things that you need to be thinking about. Because if you make a coffee with just heavy cream, it is going to lighten the color of your coffee much better than most creamers. So most creamers, you got to pour a good amount in there to get the color to change of your coffee. So the first thing I'm going to say is put your coffee on a scale before you pour your creamer, and then pour your creamer normally and see how much creamer am I actually putting in my coffee. And that's going to give you at least an understanding of how much sugar your mouth is dealing with every time you have a coffee. And then the best option would be cut it in half. So still use the creamer. You're not going to just stop using it because that's not going to work. Cut it in half. Half creamer, and then use the heavy cream to just make up the color difference. Because my guess is that you want your coffee to look a certain way, right? And like the creaminess to be a certain way. So what this will mean is that every single time that you make a coffee from now on, you're going to weigh it because you're going to weigh the creamer you're putting in, because you're going to put the creamer in to that 50% mark. And I want you to do that for a week or 2 or 3, how long it takes you that it starts to taste good again. right? It may take you 2 days. I don't know how long it's going to take. And then when it tastes good again, when it tastes normal, this new amount of creamer, cut it in half. And you're going to keep doing that until it doesn't make any sense to keep adding the creamer when you realize, okay, I can just have the heavy cream. But why do that? Because every time you try to quit using the creamer, but then you go back to putting the creamer, you're telling yourself you can't do it. You're telling yourself that you're not worth fighting for this for, and all these negative thoughts that come to us like, why aren't I doing it? What's wrong? And that's what the companies want you to do. Right? And if you do what the companies want you to do, you're not doing the thing that helps you. I want you to do the thing that helps you. So after maybe 4 or 5 times, 6 times, however many times it takes you to cut it in half before you go, yeah, this doesn't make any sense anymore. I actually think I could do it. Try a coffee with just heavy cream. And if you like it, you're done. If you're like, oof, I still don't like this, then keep cutting it in half. Trust me, there's going to come a point where you're going to, like, the amount you're putting in versus the amount of heavy cream, you're going to realize that, no, I'm not even tasting the creamer anymore. In which case you might realize that it might have been psychological the whole time, that you're telling yourself you don't like something because this is the way I always did it, more so than I can't actually do it. It's another possibility. But ultimately, you got to try stuff, right? If you want to progress, you got to try stuff. And now the reason that I would encourage not to do sugar-free creamer, and if it upsets your stomach, be thankful to your body that is telling you right away, don't do that. A lot of sugar-free creamers have artificial sweeteners in them, first of all, which not great. Not great. Artificial sweeteners, I think like 2 years ago, the World Health Organization came out really firmly saying we need to stop using that stuff. And for them to say something, you actually kind of know that, okay, the evidence must be overwhelming, because it takes a lot for them to say something. But the other thing that I want to point out is that your body's right. If something makes you feel, your body's right, right? And one of the things that I find really amazing is that it's rare that we eat meat, fish, poultry, and eggs, like, so all by itself in isolation, and our body says, don't do that. Our body usually is very happy. It's when we start adding stuff to the meat, fish, poultry, and eggs that we get into trouble. So, Wellness Warrior, like, just pay attention to that and give yourself the option to do what's best for your health. Tony, I want to thank you very much for joining the live stream. I laugh every time you call me Valerie. I'm not, I feel like it's become a joke between us. It's Violet. Yeah. We need this community. Chat soon. I'm looking forward to talking to you again, Tony. And I want every wellness warrior in here to understand the benefits of eating healthy food, because your body wants you to be healthy. I don't just like push for you to be healthy because I want you to watch my videos, or no, I'm pushing for you to be healthy because if you get healthy, someone's going to see that you got healthy and they're going to be like, "Hey, what'd you do?" And when you tell them, if they're even intrigued, they're going to do more research. Second reason that I want you to be healthy this way, like through eating real food, is because when we see the impact of eating real food, meat, fish, poultry, and eggs, when we see the impact on us, that it lasts, that takes all the mental energy, the gymnastics, the struggle that was in your head about how will I keep doing this forever away. Many people don't start keto or carnivore for that matter, because how could I give up and insert whatever, whether it's ice cream or bread? They're afraid of putting down the carb heavy foods because they don't believe that they can. And then when you actually eat only healthy things, for a year, 2 years, 7 years, and you realize this is the easiest thing I've ever done. Like once you get past the cravings, it's the easiest thing I've ever done. I've not only lived my keto life for 6+ years, I transitioned to carnivore, and it'll be, so how long? Wait a minute, for 5+ years. And I transitioned to carnivore. It's going to be 2 years soon. And I'm going up on, oh wait, my math is so bad, but I'm going to be 8 years in eight. Yeah, so it was 6 years, and now we're going on to 2 years of carnivore. And I feel amazing. And I don't think about food until it's time to eat. And the only reason that would be a problem is if I forgot to defrost something. Wellness warrior, life feels best when you're actually living it. When I'm out there doing my activities, talking to you guys, helping people at work, playing with my kids and the nieces and nephews, and playing with my cat who didn't show up today, but he's around. When I'm doing fun things, that's where life feels the best to me. And I want it to feel amazing to you too. So I make these videos. I have a great video coming up this coming Thursday. And I hope that you enjoy it, because I think it's going to help you to better like implement these ideas. I'm so happy that this was helpful for you. You said great advice. I'm going to start 50% approach. Thanks. I really hope it works for you, because we are all worth this energy effort that we're putting in to find out about carnivore, to find out about keto, to fix the things in our lives, to do the things that help us to get out there and have fun. And I definitely want you out there having fun. So I hope that you're going to join me later on the wellnesssquad.org. If you don't know, I changed the website. I was on a different platform, going through a different platform, and it was blocking my ability to really interact with you guys the way that I wanted to, and I didn't like that. So now I've created my own website, and it's the Wellness Squad. It's the conversations. My goal is that the conversations are going to be in person. So this is kind of in person, but I can't hear your voice. I can't hear you talk to me. So in the Wellness Squad, in person, 7 p.m. tonight, I'm going to be there, camera on, and I encourage you to come. You can have camera on or off, however you're comfortable. But I want to hear your voice. I want to know who I'm talking to. I want these conversations to be conversations so that we can kind of go back and forth and really solve problems, right? It's terrific that I was able to think of an action plan for you, MZK, but it's so much more fun when we can just chat and talk about all things keto and carnivore without worrying about people who are not interested in what we're talking about. So I look forward to talking to you guys tonight, and I just can't wait for it. So wellnesssquad.org. I'm going to put a video up eventually here for anybody who's interested, and I'll talk to you soon. Tonight, wellnesssquad.org.